Hi everybody, how y'all doing? And welcome to the Guy's House, where we try to keep things cool, calm, collected, and mostly a bit chill. You know what? If you learned anything from that guy, Punkwaddle, don't ask me to spell it, because, I finally figured out how to say it out loud, and trust me, that guy is not hooked on phonics. I don't know. Must be, something else entirely, right? Point being, if I understood correctly, I believe that he saw his shadow, which means we've got a few more weeks of winter left, which means, well, more chill, right? I couldn't tell you how many times I've watched the movie Groundhog Day, because, even watching it one time feels like you've watched it like 15 or 20 times, right? If you watch it again, well, do you want to do the time warp again? Anyway, I digress, right? It's definitely a fun trope, and it's one of those things that's really been fun and, well, entertainment, and as long as it's not overused, it's pretty neat, right? Just kind of like the whole tradition of Punkwaddle coming out and seeing if he sees the shadow or not, right? It's a silly little tradition, but I think there's something important about the silly little traditions and the silly little things that kind of make everything, unique, right? This idea that it was kind of a regional thing, and it kind of became adopted by a bigger and bigger crowd, and now it's fun, and I don't know if asking an animal to walk out and see its shadow or not. I don't know if that's the most cruelest thing in the world, right? But I think there's definitely something to tradition, understanding why it's important, and, well, it's kind of like what I want to talk about today is there's certain regional things that definitely have their value and their purpose, and sometimes in an attempt to share that with the world, sometimes we kind of lose sight of the actual point and purpose and functionality of the original idea that kind of gets... We started getting a generic version of it, right? And when to, appeal to the masses or tailor to the masses or try to make it functional, when you have to change so much about something that's simple and fun for some people and not harming others either, right? All of a sudden, we kind of... If we lose the muchness of something just to make sure that other people can experience it, is it worth it, right? Is it worth the point? I understand with the technology and globalization, it's really, really easy to share things and ship things all over the country, and share ideas with the click of a button. But sometimes that's good, and sometimes, well, I don't know. Okay, case in point, one of the things that I saw when I traveled, and I know I talk about it now and then, is, traveling the U.S. is, you'd see a lot of the same kind of mini malls with the same shops and similar kind of restaurants all around them, right? And you'd still have some of the regional, cuisine. In New Mexico, you have more of the green chili stuff, and Colorado has their own kind of versions of that. You can go to California and get Baja, Baja Mexican. You can go to New Mexico and get that kind of Santa Fe with the black beans and rice. You can go to Texas and get Tex-Mex, and, well, they all have similar ingredients. They kind of have different flavor palettes, and, for the different regional available foods and styles and whatnot. And it's fun that you can go, to a big city up north and get food based on either any of those regions. But the truth is, it's not going to be necessarily authentic. I mean, it might be inspired by. And every now and then you'll have somebody that actually moved up there that does have all the right spices and, makes it for real. But I remember going to a Mexican restaurant, I think in near Peoria, Illinois once, and I was like, I'm from Texas, can I have real Mexican? And they're like, yeah, we know. And so they gave me the spicy stuff. It was hot and burned my mouth, and it was great. And I'd eaten there before and had their kind of simple water, not nearly as hot and spicy salsa, which wasn't bad, but when people have a certain flavor palette, you don't want to rock the boat and get booted out of town because people aren't actually interested in that flavor palette, right? So, in this way of sharing and bringing culture to different places, sometimes in that, we sometimes lose sight of what we're trying to share, and things sort of get watered down in a way that it kind of becomes a generic representation of what something was. And in some ways, it's a good thing that we learn about other cultures and we try to understand and do our best to appreciate things, so that maybe we have a chance to one day visit that specific location, country, or city to taste the wonderful food, to see the sights and sounds. Because let's face it, there's a lot of resources that can be utilized, can be depleted, in this idea of globalization and sharing around the world. But there's also certain things like, scenery, topography, mountain ranges that are a lot harder to just ship across the world, to share. So there's definitely a reason to go visit other countries and reason to visit places that have been oohed and gnawed at for, until you see it with your own eyes. You can only, pictures don't do it justice, sort of things, right? I mean, we all get that. But I think what I'm getting at is, there seems to be this push sometimes that instead of out of respect for something, or another culture, or another idea, right, we're trying to figure out how to utilize those resources for some other goal, and it becomes okay to water things down. And all of a sudden we have a lot of overgeneralized, generic versions of something that's truly wonderful and truly beautiful and truly, tastes amazing. But because, say, we only have a copy, or we have the recipe but we don't have the same minerals in the water source, so even if we make it exactly the same way, it's not going to taste the same, right? And I do believe in that science, right? Between fermented foods, beers, wines, breads, like so many things, that the waters and the minerals and just the water table that it comes from really does affect the flavors and when you cook it and all that stuff, right? I used to think that was hogwash, but man, it's definitely real. So, man, I'm getting hungry for pasta for some reason, and I don't even know why. Maybe I'm talking about all this bread. But with all this, like last week I was talking about, there's been a lot of deconstruction, and we know about it, right? Trying to break down what has existed to try and tell our own versions of it, which, as much as I understand that every generation needs to, sing its own song and kind of create its own wheel, that doesn't mean we just pretend like the accomplishments of the last generation can't stand on their own, or that we have to be petty brats and say that it doesn't count for anything unless, we had our hands in it, because that never goes well, right? So, with this idea that things need to be shared and globalized in the same way that kind of destroying what already exists, well, when you break something down so far that it's not recognizable, and then you just pick up the ingredients from what's left over, I mean, you kind of get mush, right? You kind of get this, well, this makes sense to me, and I think this means this, and I want this to mean this. I mean, once again, I think if you think about the social aspect and the social sciences, like I was talking about with Sir Isaac Newton and the laws of motion and all that, I don't know. It's like we're trying to have this big social big bang, right? We break everything, and we smash it, and we say this is terrible, we're gonna rebuild, and then, well, we only know how to do what we understand, and when you've kind of pushed out all the old creatives, and all the people who knew how to build those really awesome things that we tore down, that we never learned how to build, the versions we're getting aren't that great yet, because when you have to relearn something on your own accord, and you don't take time to, well, try to lean on the institutional knowledge, it takes a long time to get back to, well, what they understood through experience, through your own experience, by trial and error, all over again. So, what I'm trying to say is, when we're trying to share everything, and we're trying to make it our own, and trying to do so much and, erase what came before because we think we can do it better, and you're burning at the candle at both ends, you kind of end up with this generic mush, and without any sort of structure or support left, from all the things that you destroyed and all your focus on trying to build new stuff, you have to start over from the ground up. And, sometimes when you're so focused on building your own empire and not on the backs of anything else, well, we see dynasties fall, and lots of great companies, great thinkers, great charismatic leadership models that, their legacy kind of gets crashed and burned because somebody thinks they can do it on their own, right? And, well, like I said, until they figure out what they're doing or what they want or what it's supposed to look like, if you've destroyed the foundation, all you have is the simple rudimentary structures that you can see, that you can hope and believe work until trial and error proves that they will or won't. And then, once again, build up from there. So, I guess it remains to see what's going to get built. And, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, because maybe we do have some people out there that are just waiting for their time to shine. And maybe we do have more institutional knowledge that's just waiting in the woodwork to be heard again. So, I'm still hopeful that we're going to have beautiful things and new creations, new ideas, and who knows? Maybe a whole new culinary and architecture style will come out of all of this eventually. Metaphorically or actually, so. Well, I think I've rambled enough, and I do hope that we have so much left and so many creative and inspired people that we don't really have the mush that I was talking about, even though it'll take a minute to see what rises from, well, all of this fun, exciting, and changing times. So, I guess If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments and let me know what you think. So, see you next time. See you later. Bye!